The 13th edition of the World Trade Organization Ministerial Conference, dubbed MC13, was held in Abu Dhabi from 26 to 29 February. The conference was extended by a day and ended in the wee hours of 2 March. The MC13 held a mirror to those who believe that greater trade and economic integration can lead to narrowing geopolitical differences. The conference demonstrated that trade was much less a driver as it was an outcome of geopolitics, with each influential member flexing muscles and achieving varying degrees of success. While the WTO now has 166 members and runs by consensus, a few big members have always had disproportionate influence over the workings of the institution. However, it appears that Abu Dhabi offered a turning point. The United States was largely responsible for creating what is today known as the International Rules-Based Order. However, since the last Obama years, the US has been retreating from global affairs, and this phenomena came to the fore sharply in MC13. The outcomes achieved at MC13 do not bear any American footprints in terms of either substance or ambition. The US seems to have ceded its big brother space to the European Union this time. China was amongst the key players which had a huge loss of face at the MC13. Beijing had spearheaded the Agreement on Investment Facilitation for Development, a plurilateral arrangement which it sought to integrate with the WTO legal system. While officially coordinated by Korea and Chile, China has been the real force behind this plurilateral. There is a huge overlap between the signatories of this agreement and the participants in China's Belt and Road Initiative. However, due to India's opposition, this agreement could not be integrated into the WTO framework. India was the only country that opposed this process on legal grounds and for now seems to have prevailed. While China can still take solace in a beneficial stance from other MC13 declarations, its main agenda was torpedoed by India single-handedly. The European Union had a mixed bag. While the EU could unambiguously assume the leadership of the developed world, most of its core interests were left out of the Abu Dhabi outcomes. The EU has been longing to expand the remit of the WTO, seeking deliberations linked to topics like environment, gender justice, and small businesses. While these topics in themselves are important, the underlying problems are broad and cannot be addressed substantially through trade negotiations. The EU has also seen a return to hawkish industrial policy, much like most other developed countries. EU seeks to ring-fence its industry, which often derives its global influence from past laurels and balance sheet strength rather than from current competitiveness or future innovations. The EU sought to start discussions on industrial policy in the WTO mainly to legitimize a protectionist stance of its recent measures such as the Net Zero Industry Act and the Green Deal. These topics, which would have effectively signaled the beginning of new rounds of trade negotiations, were left out of the Abu Dhabi Ministerial Declaration. Developing countries, with India often offering bluntest criticism, held their ground against EU's efforts to internationalize its domestic policy compulsions. India was the defensive bulwark of the MC13, ensuring that the EU and Chinese power play did not sidetrack the WTO from its core agenda. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal proactively reached out to the international media outlets, strongly conveying India's views and positions. In two negotiations, agriculture and fishery subsidies, India ensured that its domestic interest groups did not come under any new disciplines or scrutiny of the WTO. The developed countries had been pushing to design the fishery subsidies agreement on the lines of the 1995 Agreement on Agriculture. An attempt was made to retain the subsidization rights with a handful of deep water fishing nations while asking the rest of the world to implement new disciplines and restraints. The Indian position exposed the hollowness of this 3-decade-old sleight of hand. India did not achieve a permanent solution for its public food stocks. However, with the 2013 Bali ministerial mandate, Indian agriculture policies do not face any legal challenges, even if they face periodic criticism from its trading partners. Countries like Indonesia and South Africa played crucial roles in several negotiations while also pushing their own agenda. Indonesia single-handedly blocked the renewal of the moratorium on custom duties on electronic transmissions before relenting. South Africa led the charge on the development agenda and the effective implementation of the concept of special and differential treatment for developing countries. The United Arab Emirates proved to be an excellent host with well-organized conference equipped with great facilities and a strong digital footprint, making the proceedings available to the world at large. While there were few substantive outcomes, the negotiation process was influenced by many WTO members. This is a good sign for the emerging multipolar world order. The WTO itself has been unable to deal with new voices seeking to sit at the high table. It is a key global institution, but MC13 proved that WTO's relevance will be decided by its ability to give adequate space to the interests of developing countries.